In my last video, I said that Khamzat Chimaev goes from boxing and sparring this guy to just beating him up. He batters him. One guy commented in return that that's not what I saw. What I saw was the guy hits him with a hard shot and then Khamzat humbles him by beating him up. I don't see that. I didn't see a particularly hard shot. I didn't see any evidence of a hard shot, no head recoiling back, no taking liberties with his skull, no hitting him in the body in some exceptionally hard way. None of those shots look different to me, right? But even so, I want to talk about this idea of humbling someone or teaching them a lesson or doing any kind of teaching by just beating them up, because in my opinion, it doesn't really work. It's something that I've seen quite a few times in Krav Maga and in fight gyms, right? Someone is being a bit of a dick, they don't know how to spar, so the instructor thrashes that person or sends like an enforcer, senior, higher level belt student to go over there and give that person a beating. Interestingly, it always happens to the male students who are being a bit silly, but the female students who go berserk, they're just dealt with because they're not actually damaging anyone most of the time, or it's embarrassing for a male to admit that they're being damaged by some female student who's going berserk with no control, right? So it's usually the men who get beaten up in this way, and I just don't think that it works. I don't think that the guy is humbled. I don't think that we know that the guy is humbled, and I've never known anyone to actually say or reflect and say that they've been humbled by taking a beating in this way. In my opinion, all that happens is that the beaten person just retreats. Because humility is a characteristic which takes time to develop. It's not like greed. It's not like fear. It's not like deference or lust. Humility is a high-level human characteristic. So I don't think it's taught by just beating it into someone. It's taught by life, and it's taught by your parents, and it's taught by experience, and it takes time to become humble. One of the benefits of being a smaller instructor is I can't do what I've seen some of my teachers do, which is just beat up students who are not sparring well, students who aren't playing well. I've got to think about this thing a bit more deeply, because smashing someone who's, say, a foot taller than me could result in a brawl that actually is quite dangerous for me. So it means that I've had to think about this a bit more deeply than perhaps usual. I mean, there are all sorts of problems and all sorts of reasons why people hit too hard and don't spar well. But the goal of sparring is that you want everyone in the room to want to play with you, because it's a game. Effectively, it's a game which we want to play to get better at something else, which is quite similar, which is fighting, right? So that's from a student's perspective. From a teacher's perspective, I want as many people in the room to be happy with playing with each other, right? So if someone gets humbled by taking a beating and then they leave, because let's face it, that's what they almost always do. They leave, right? They leave. That's a failure for them, and it's a failure from my perspective. But there's a whole lot of reasons why people actually do this, why they actually have these problems. I mean, some people just don't know what bloody sparring is, right? It's kind of this unspoken thing. Suddenly at the end of a training class, everyone just starts gloving up and they all get intense and something passes through the air and we realize we're about to get hit and there's an energy and everyone's rapping and putting on head guards and mouthpieces and oh god, this looks like it's a fight and you've seen it on TV and you think a fight's about to happen and no one's actually explained what the goals of sparring should be and what the energy should be like. So some people think it's a fight. And I've even seen some very advanced belts, some very advanced trainees actually talk about sparring, and they'll occasionally slip in the word fighting, like interchangeably. So you can tell that on some level they think that they are the same damn thing, right? So people sometimes spar too hard because they just don't know what sparring actually is, or they have a different conception of what sparring is from a sustainable, developmental kind of sparring mindset. There's some people who don't know how to pull punches, right? Because pulling punches is a technical skill. You don't just turn up and then you're able to pull punches, just like you don't turn up and just know how to throw punches hard. Pulling punches is a separate skill, and it needs to be taught. It needs to be practiced. There isn't bloody time to teach and practice it, right? You go to class not to be taught how to hit lightly, but believe it or not, hitting lightly is a skill. Right, how to hit someone fast and in a way that teaches them a useful reflex, but not hurt and damage them in a serious way, is a learned skill. And very, very, very few instructors have I ever come across who have actually made the time to teach this. And even those instructors rarely have the time to teach it, right? So the person could be hitting hard simply because they don't know how to hit light. There are people with dyspraxia, people with like lousy, difficult coordination issues, so that they have difficulty coordinating their bodies. These are the guys who are going to kick you in the bloody kneecap, right? And they're going to hit you hard from time to time. They just mechanically cannot control their body, and they're just going to smack you one harder than they should be from time to time, and they're never going to acquire fantastic control. You just need to put the bloody headguard on when you're dealing with these people. Make them wear heavier gloves. It's not that they're idiots. You don't drop a beating on those people, right? You don't humble them. The person's just dyspraxic, right? We just need to accommodate that, right? You have people who have suffered trauma, and so when they begin to spar, and when someone's really beginning to throw at them, and they're shing up and they're panicking, they start to experience PTSD, and they reenact their trauma response, and they're trying to kind of overcome the last time someone overwhelmed them with punches in the face by smashing the person backwards and going ballistic and finding the aggression. And this Krav Maga class is all about aggression. They find that kind of crazy psycho-aggression, not realizing that actually the thing that we're doing right now should not be about psycho-crazy aggression, but actually controlled movement that actually often is quite low in aggression, right? So there's people who are traumatized and haven't been told to calm the hell down and get that under control. And there's a way to control these traumatized people by building the sparring up. But a lot of the time it isn't built up, you're just suddenly sparring. You have some people who have weak egos, and they need to go on a whole journey of developing their egos. They can't be pushed about, right? They can't accept that they're not the dominant person in any kind of situation or any kind of exchange. And I think that's what Khamzat was in this video here, right? Some people can only be the hammer and they haven't learned to be the nail. And the thing about sparring that's wonderful, especially if you do it over time, is that you learn to be both. And then even beyond that is you get to a point where you're indifferent whether you're one or the other. All that matters is that you learn to continue. But those egos, those people need time to train, and they need time to develop their egos, and they need to be told this. The problem needs to be recognized, and it needs to be asked why you are like this. And very often it's trained, in my experience, it's traced back to people who have a lack of having been accepted as children, particularly as teenagers, right? So these people will have been bullied, they will have been hurt, they will have been missing strong father figures a lot of the time. And I know because I've had some of this issue myself. You have some people with autism. So they struggle with social reciprocity, so the give and take of situations. They struggle with understanding non-verbal signals. How the hell are those people going to spar well if it isn't explained to them deeply what the hell we're trying to do and how to do it well? They need like maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 times as much time to develop the actual mechanical skills of fighting itself. In what way would they not need that much more time to learn how to give and take and read the other person's signals when it comes to how to play with them? Well, a lot of people with autism have suffered failures to play with other children before. Right, and suddenly now they're doing the first activity in their lives, which is physical, and which is a form of play, with physical play with other adults, and we're expecting them to play well. How many combat schools or self-defense instructors have you seen who even ask their students if they're bloody autistic, so that they can actually cater for this, so they can warn the student in advance and they can warn other students like. This person isn't being a fool. They just naturally struggle with reciprocity. Don't humble them by beating them up, yeah? And then there's just some people who are just not able to adapt from their youth. So there's some guys who just go way too hard because they went hard when they were younger, they were natural fighters, they are just tough fighterly people, and the thing is they're now passing their 40s and they want to just fight bloody hard, and they haven't been told to calm the hell down. So I had a student who's in his early 60s, and he just kept on getting into situations where he was just brawling with people. Right, in spars. I mean, I saw him with a nosebleed, even though he was wearing a full-face bloody headguard. And I was like, how the hell did that happen, right? How are we going so hard that you got a nosebleed on when you got a face bar? Yeah? So these people need to be just told to calm down. They don't need to be humbled by getting beaten up. That doesn't teach them anything, right? Learning to spar is learning to play well. Learning to play well is learning to live well itself. I mean, it's an incredibly profound thing, and one of the greatest reasons why I think we have to spar. It's not just to learn to fight and defend ourselves, but it has an enormous amount of fringe benefit when it comes to relating to other people and conquering your own ego. To beat someone up and to humble them by smashing them up like this and sending their head flying is to completely miss an incredible opportunity to have like a teachable moment where you can connect with someone and completely potentially change their life for the better. And this is like a person who could be a future sparring partner for you and everyone else in the room, right? So if you train with me, please don't humble anyone by beating them up, because yeah, they could be the most incredible sparring partner. You just never know. Yeah, we have to accommodate, and we have to talk, we have to communicate, we have to play, and we have to spar better. Yeah, save the humbling for the bad guy. Hope that helps. Peace.